I'd like to call the February 28th, 2023 Newberry Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, I'd like to announce we had an executive session at 4 o'clock today. We discussed personnel issues related to the fire companies and real estate business related to the potential sale of sewer assets. We'll start with public comment. Julie?
Well, good evening, everybody. And we're going to talk about refuge here tonight. Refuge is a safe place that we can go to from people pursuing us, safe from danger. And God on the throne wants to be our refuge. No matter what our trouble is, He wants to be the one that we run to. And I'm going to read Psalm 91 before I pray. This psalm I have run to when violence increases against police officers and I want to pray for them. I've run to this psalm when COVID hit. And I ran to this psalm when our youngest son had a mental health crisis. So I pray that you hear how much God wants to protect you. Psalm 91, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent, for He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because He loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue Him. I will protect Him, for He acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer Him. I will be with Him in trouble. I will deliver Him and honor Him. With long life, I will satisfy Him and show Him my salvation. Let us pray. Oh Lord, you are mighty. You are mighty to save and you are mighty to protect. And I lift up those who are so needy in this community, Lord. We know there are those who need financially. We know there are those who need emotionally and spiritually. And we pray that they know you to run to in times of trouble. But be our refuge as we serve them. Be our refuge and strength as we help all those who are in need in this community. Please surround the first responders with your angels, that you protect them, that they will not strike their foot against a stone. And please be with each person in this room for only you know what their heart needs. You only know what their relationships need. And thank you for being our refuge. We praise your name for that, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney. Attorney. I get through this first, or done this first and then this, or doesn't matter?
Yeah, well, he's right at the top anyway, but Joe Stafford, he signed in too, but he's already in there.
And then this,
And then
this.
those two, and then go to PFM.
Okay. I will move to public comment. Joe Stafford. Sure.
Evening. Joe Stafford, 40 Sarah Drive, Dover. Thank you for public comment opportunity. I'd like to read a letter that I submitted to the township manager, and Mr. Miller courteously said I would have to present this at open public comment. So allow me to read it, and then I'd like to answer any questions that you might have. This is a request for a second street sign and warning sign for Sarah Drive. This is a request to install a second street sign marking the intersection of Sarah Drive and York Road, which is State Road SR 4009, to be visible to northbound traffic, and an appropriate intersection warning sign, W1-10, or something similar in accordance with the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for northbound traffic. If warranted, I would also like to add a request for an orange diamond sign. It's a flag type sign atop the street sign or the W1-10. All signage is near State Road 4009, Node 170. As a new resident of Newberry Township, I use York Road almost daily. When traveling northbound and approaching Sarah Drive, there is little warning for through traffic to adjust speed and distance to vehicles negotiating a left turn onto Sarah Drive. The vertical and horizontal alignment of State Road 4009 creates a short sight distance for northbound traffic in the vicinity of Sarah Drive. Southbound traffic on York Road has a reasonable sight distance of the intersection, and the street sign is visible southbound only. However, the street sign is set back a considerable distance from the intersection and cannot be seen from northbound traffic. In fact, it sits on top of a stop sign. Please forward and coordinate this request to PennDOT if necessary. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but this is my request for safety. One other comment, I was here, I'm a new resident of the township. I was here last month, and I actually remember Chief of Police giving his report, and there was some reference to the police department going through traffic study training rather than paying for a PennDOT traffic study. So that might be an opportunity, and give an opportunity for the police to take a look at it, get their input, and for me, it's a matter of safety. I thank you for your time. Any
Right.
questions?
This will have to go to PennDOT, right?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Okay. Okay, we'll look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to the neighborhood.
I'm sorry?
Thank you, and welcome to the neighborhood.
Chris Eversole?
Hi, I'm the mayor of Aiken Borough. I'm just here for observation. See how you're
Welcome.
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
Tom Adams?
Tom Adams at 1610 Valley Road. This is just some comments on previous comments that were made here a couple months ago. I failed to come in the last couple months to say it, so here I am now. Dr. Cox had come in and talked about this new sports complex he was interested in at Redland High School. And when I listened to him, I said, well, that sounds pretty good. And the more I talked to people about it, and just thought about what he had said, it sounded to me like he wanted a whole new football stadium down there. And talking to other parents, the midget football is not on the level that it once was. The Redland football has sort of leveled out, you might say. I have to admit, my two kids were in high school in the 5 years that Redland beat Cedar Cliff, and we were ecstatic about that for quite a while. It's been a while since we've beaten Cedar Cliff or even made it a competitive game. I really don't think that a whole new football stadium is the answer, because the West Shore Stadium is really a very, very good facility. And I can't imagine the school district is going to go along with building a whole new football stadium. Now, if you want to go with a field for lacrosse, field hockey, and soccer, without all the stands and all the extraneous things, that would be a very good idea. I'd be very happy to help support that. Secondly, there was a gentleman who talked about the traffic on Potts Hill Road and how fast that people go down there. I drive a school van for the West Shore School District, and I go down that twice a day. And I found out very quickly that the school district keeps tabs on your van. You are credited with how fast you go. And it took a while before I was anything other than in the negative. Going down that hill at 35 miles an hour is not easy. Riding your brake the whole way down that hill. I have some friends that live on that road, the Trimmers. Now, they live on the south side of the road, and their mailbox is on the side of the road with their house, so they don't have to cross the road. And they said, yes, of course, people fly through there, but they don't have the problem that apparently the last people mentioned. Now, with all the hills around here, it is going to be very, very difficult to maintain their control speeds. I think where you need to look at it is on these flat areas where people really rev up. I mean, I live on a curve that is pretty dangerous. In fact, my neighbor used to have a big concrete pillar in front of his porch that people would hit on occasion. Since removed it, he got tired of mowing around it. That's just my comments, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments. And next, we have PFM to give an update on the sewer request for proposal process with Scott.
All right, good evening, everyone. Everyone up on the dais should have a presentation. We also have some hard copies of the presentation. I'm going to be going through them on the table here as well, so feel free to grab one if you'd like to follow along. So just kind of walking through this briefly, if we start on page 2. So I guess this kind of started about a year ago, where PFM was engaged by the board to, in addition to the Township Local Council and engineer, to explore the possibility of potentially selling the sewer system. So there was not a decision already made to sell the system. It was basically, let's explore. The township had various assets. Let's look at, kind of valuing those assets and seeing if they're, if it does make sense or does not make sense to move forward with any possible sale. So basically, for the past year, we've been in what we call due diligence period, where we're just gathering information to make sure ultimately that we can come back and present all the information to the public that we have that will be happening soon if the board decides to move forward. So on point number 2 on this page, the goal of this process, to date, again, we've been just kind of gathering information. We're now at the point where if the board decided to move forward with an RFP, that we'll send that out, and then we'd like to kind of continue to run this process where the public's involved. So we're going to be doing much more public meetings at that point to talk about the information that we received through the RFP process. So the point of today's meeting is basically just to kind of lay out the overview and kind of a high-level timeline of the process moving forward if that's the direction that the board wants to continue. But again, we'll stress throughout this presentation that this is just an exploration process. We're just kind of doing our information gathering. There has been no decision made at all to sell the system, nothing definitive. It's just kind of getting that information so that ultimately then we can make a decision based on all the information that's available. So page number 3, some of the key points that we're focused on throughout this process, and you'll hear more of it if we continue in the process when we get to the public meetings here in the next few months. Number 1, rates. So I think we're all concerned what the user rates may look like, not only if the township sells the system, but also what it looks like if the township keeps the system. And so that's something that we're going to come back with to say that, you know, if we do move forward and get bids, we're asking those bidders, those pre-qualified bidders, to not only provide a purchase price of what they see the fair market value of the system, but also indicative rates as well for the next 10 years. So we'll come back ultimately then and say, okay, well, here is what the bidders submitted for their indicative rates, but here's also sort of what the world looks like regarding rates if the township keeps the system and continues to operate it the way it had been. I think it's probably fair to say that no matter who has ownership of the system moving forward, there's going to be rate increases, just given this is a very capital-intensive asset. Things need to be done to it to maintain a good quality service. So again, whether the township keeps the system or whether a different owner is determined to be in the best interest, we're going to see rates go up, but we're going to provide that transparency and what those indicative rates look like. Probably the most important point, employees. So right now, we're working with 3 employees of the system that will be part of this. If anything does move forward, no employees would lose their job. It is mandated in the agreement that the pre-qualified bidders will be bidding on that no one will lose their jobs, that they will be transferred over to the potential new owner if that's the direction that everyone wants to go. So employees really are always the kind of top priority when it comes to these exploration processes, to make sure that employees are treated very, very fairly. And that, is, again, is all built into the document as drafted. Number 3, public involvement. You know, again, we've been just gathering this information up to this point. Assuming we move forward and we get bids in, say mid-April, then we'll come back and have more public meetings to explain the results and you know, what the impacts would look like to the residents here and the ratepayers of the township. And then lastly, the purchase price that I already mentioned is another key point that we're going to be talking about in the future. So page number 4, kind of what we've been doing over the past year with the rest of the team that's exploring this is initially we did phase 1, which we completed that back last year, that's where we first had to get a good assessment of the system ourselves to see if it makes sense to continue this exploration process. So we did that that part of the process, what we call the phase 1 analysis and evaluation. We did research and, you know, reached out to the private sector business and also other municipally owned systems as well to see if they'd be interested in possibly pursuing this exploration process as well. And we did some high-level analyses on the impacts that this could potentially have on ratepayer as well as the township financial. So we've done a lot of preliminary work to this date, but again, it's all very preliminary until we get some of this additional detail if you decide to move, if the board decides to move forward with the bids. So then phase 2, that we're kind of nearing the completion of phase 2, and that's all, again, still all the due diligence process. We first went out with an RFQ, a request for qualifications. So we did that, say, last summertime, where we sent this RFQ out to 100+ different potential operators or investors in this system. And it's a list that we've used for other exploration processes like we're talking about here today for other municipally owned systems. We got back a handful of responses, which is what we typically expect, and then we shortlisted or pre-qualified those that submitted their response to the RFQ based on their financial capabilities, their operating capabilities, and things like that, to make sure they'd be potentially a worthwhile partner and a good partner moving forward here in the township. So once those bidders were pre-qualified, they were then allowed to start going through all the information that we had already gathered with the system. They also had asked a lot of questions and a lot of information requests that the township has been working with to get answers to make sure everyone fully understands kind of all the details of the system. So that part is still in process, where we're still looking at information, trying to gather information to make sure everyone has everything that they need to make a full assessment throughout this process. We then have been spending a lot of time, and especially the township solicitor, drafting some of the legal documents that ultimately these pre-qualified bidders would be looking at and bidding on. So the point of this is to make sure it's an apples-to-apples comparison, that the various pre-qualified bidders are all going to have the same exact document that they're bidding on, and they have all the same access to all the information that we have as well. So there's no improprieties here. Everyone has access to all the same info and bidding on the same exact document. So that is ready that asset purchase agreement that the solicitor has drafted is in good shape, ready to be sent out with this RFB, or the request for bid. And that's basically the point of this evening, is to just kind of give a brief update on where we've been, what we're looking to do, and if the board is desired to do so, to move forward with a motion to allow us to send out this RFB, the request for bid. Sending out the RFB, again, does not bind the board to move forward with a sale. All it does is allow for more information to come in, so that we can come back and have additional public meetings to see if it makes sense or does not make sense to move forward. So that's kind of very key, is that this does not bind the township to move forward with a sale. It just allows us to gather more information. Phase 3 is if a proposal would come in that we all would feel would be in the best interest of the township to move forward. Then that's, again, where we would first have the public meetings to discuss it all, and then there'd be a vote by the board to move forward with it, if that would be the decision. And then it would probably be a year or more until the transaction would close. There's a tremendous amount of work that the township's team would need to do, along with the potential buyer, to move everything through the PUC, the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission here in Pennsylvania. So there's various approvals. We would need the board to approve it here at the township, but then a very lengthy process through the Public Utility Commission. On page 5, some of the highlights of the RFB, or the request for bid. The RFB itself is basically two documents. It's this asset purchase agreement, or the APA that we talked about. That's the kind of ultimately would be the binding document between the township as the seller and one of the pre-qualified bidders as the buyer. That lays everything out in kind of fine detail of kind of how the system would be run going forward, what assets are being transferred over, what assets, if any, would the township keep from the sewer system, and again, a lot on the employees, how that would all work. So again, kind of a very robust document that has all that information in it. So the documents that we would send out would be that asset purchase agreement, as well as then basically the procurement document that all the bidders, the various bidders would get to have, basically tell them how they need to submit their bid back, and when the cutoff period is for them to ask questions and things along those lines. So kind of very standard documents that would go out with that RFP. And point number 2, we're allowing the bidders to provide 2 different bids, one with a 2-year rate freeze, meaning that upon closing of the transaction, if we get to that point, the rates would be locked, the current rates would be locked in for a 2-year period, and we're also giving the bidders the opportunity to bid with no rate freeze. And just because we would have the option of a no rate freeze, that could potentially still mean that the township residents on the system could still go maybe a year or 2 years without a rate increase, just depending on when the potential winning bidder would seek rate increases to the PUC. And we'll talk about that more at public meetings. But if we would move forward with the proposal that does not mandate a rate freeze, there could still be a de facto rate freeze for 1, 2, or possibly even longer years, depending on the circumstances. We're also going to be having the bidders supply their indicative user rates as well, as I mentioned earlier, so we can make that comparison. And then lastly, what we're looking at here, we know that the pre-qualified bidders could be a good partner here in the township to carry on the wastewater service. But we're looking at various aspects with the bid. We're looking at the purchase price. We're looking at what their indicative rates look like, and we're looking at other things. So if the board decides they do want to move forward, that's kind of the first step. Then it's with which one of those potential pre-qualified bidders. It does not have to be the highest bidder. There's other factors that are going to be involved in that decision-making process if we get to that point. And then lastly, on page 6 would be our anticipated timeline. Now, this could change around just depending on circumstances, but here we are this evening with the public presentation, just kind of looking at looking for a motion to proceed, if that's the direction of the board, to send out the RFP. Probably in the next 1 or 2 weeks or so is when we'd send out the RFP, so we're saying early March. We would then expect the bids to come back mid to late April, so we'll give the bidders about a month or so to respond and continue their due diligence. And then probably April, May timeframe is when we'd have more public meetings to discuss all this. And then maybe, summertime would be a decision by the board to see if want to proceed with the sale or not. So with that kind of high-level overview, happy to answer any questions from the board first, and then the public.
I think I don't have any questions. We covered all my questions. Did public haven't heard anyone else have any questions?
Not to this point.
Public have any comments or Dave?
David Parsons, 201 Hill Drive. Yeah, I want to thank you both for showing up and keeping us updated. And also, I saw a couple of PDF files on a website, which was letters to Mr. Miller. So it's good, keep it going. On page 4, you mentioned about different entities. So these are corporations that you're dealing with?
Yes.
Okay.
You might want to just grab that or use that microphone there so it shows up on the.
So at this point, I guess you got to you can't really.
Yeah, so the 4 pre-qualified bidders, is this working? Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah.
The 4 pre-qualified bidders are all investor-owned utilities, so they have a lot of experience, a lot of background in the wastewater business. And they're all regulated by the PUC.
Okay, and they're all solvent. Okay. So these are public companies?
Yes.
Public, okay. In regards to the meetings, you're going to have meetings in the future. Will be similar to this, just like prior to the Board of Supervisor meetings, or like a standalone meeting?
That's a good question, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. If we get bids in that we think are worthwhile to take with the public, then we'll have that discussion of whether it's kind of at a normal board meeting or if it's a special meeting.
We'll probably do
Yeah.
a workshop on it.
Workshop.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good idea just to have, since such a big sale never occurred before, just, that'll be the subject.
And not only would, so depending on kind of the sequence of events, maybe the first public meeting, it may just be the township's team, kind of us here right now. But possibly maybe another meeting, we could potentially bring in the bidder that the township may decide to go with. So some direct questions could be asked to them as well. I mean, obviously, we'll be able to answer a lot of the questions, but sometimes it's best for them to be here too to answer the questions directly.
Right. And if there was a sale, like you've gone through a number of sales, does your company interact with the town after the sale closes?
So there's a lot of interaction between approval of the sale and closing of the sale. There'll be a lot of interaction basically on a weekly basis all the way through. And yeah, we're still here. We're located just up in Harrisburg, just 15 minutes up the road. So if there are issues, we want to know about it. We not only will like to continue our relationship with the township, but we also will, I'm sure, still be communicating with the high bidder that the township would decide to go with if they go that direction. And so we stay kind of in tune with what's going on with the various communities where this has been done. Yes.
That's good. And sometimes, when you buy a big product, you have buyer's remorse. Since you've been through this with these different towns, have any township come back to you and say, we're sorry we did this? Or we could have, maybe we should have kept our utility?
No. We have had, from the administration standpoint, kind of keeping politics aside. When we go through these transactions, we put everything out on the table. We don't want to hold back any information, and we want the stakeholders to know exactly all the information. So when it comes to, the purchase price, that's an obvious one. But when it comes to rates, that's one where we, again, try to be extremely transparent so that everyone is aware that it may not be in year 1, it may not be in year 3, there's going to be rate increases. And we want not only the board to know that, we want the public to know that as well. So there has been, in some cases, even though there was many public presentations about the sale in a particular community, discussing and illustrating and highlighting future rate increases, sometimes not everyone's able to go to those meetings, or maybe they forget, and then they come back and say, well, we had no idea this kind of rate increase was going to happen. Again, we make sure it gets out there. We'll work with the township to put information on the website. But the short answer is no. There's no buyer's remorse. Things have been working out the way they have expected to.
Okay, so you feel you did enough job to explain it to the readers and all the information? Okay. And you did address about the rate, so could be a rate freeze for 2 years or no? Okay, so.
Could be, yes.
But, yeah, but that'll be given out, okay.
Yep.
All right. I think that was it. Okay, well, thank you for showing up.
Is it my understanding that, as far as the rates go, they can only go to the PUC every certain amount of years to request rate increases?
Legally, they could go every year. It's just a very time-consuming and very expensive endeavor for these companies to go to the PUC every year, so most of them are on a 2 or 3 year cycle. We've seen in the past, one of the pre-qualified bidders as part of this, they went almost 7 years without going to the PUC for a rate increase. So it really depends on the market, but I would expect it to be like a 2 or 3 year type cycle for rate increases.
If the township wanted to increase rates, would we also have to go to the PUC for a rate increase?
No, like right now, kind of business as usual for the township, everything happens here.
Okay.
There's no PUC.
Okay.
All right.
So there will be, and I think it's important to note, and we'll talk about this more at the public meetings if we get to it, that not only do you have the PUC looking at it, but there's various kind of arms of the PUC, and they're advocates for the ratepayers, that they're there to, again, work on behalf of the ratepayers, and they will really poke and prod and try to uncover all the information and uncover all the stones to make sure everything is out there. So it goes under a lot of scrutiny, which is why they don't want to do it every year, because it's very, very time consuming and expensive for these companies to do that, to have the personnel assigned to that basically on a daily basis for 9 months to a year that it takes to go through one of those rate cases.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, please.
You can come to the microphone. You have to state your name and address again.
Sure. Joe Stafford, 40 Sarah Drive. I wasn't prepared to address the board, but this is a fascinating issue. I love this stuff. So here's my question. The discussion is revolved around the numbers. Is it cost effective? Are we going to make money? I have a basic question. The sewer authority is nonprofit, am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The buyer would be a for-profit company?
No, I was
Publicly
Is that-
held, so
I was wrong on that.
The sewer authority is,
this is profit.
It's an authority. It's an authority.
It's an
a
authority.
It's a taxing authority. It's part of the
Well,
municipality, but it can't make a
there is no
profit.
sewer authority,
It can't make a profit.
correct, but semantics, but the sewer authority was taken over by the township, so there is no sewer authority in place. It was dissolved a year and a half ago. So the sewer assets are owned by the township, so it's a municipal asset, is what it is. So, I'm just clarifying to make sure that your new resident, the sewer authority is no longer in existence
And
for Newberry.
and of course, this might be news to anyone listening and watching and in attendance as well. So I'm just looking for the teachable moment here. So here's my question. Is this I'm sure the township has a comprehensive plan. Is this any part of the comprehensive plan? Is it been coordinated with the York County Planning Commission? And from my knowledge of utilities, you need capital investment to keep going. So I'm a resident with an on-lot septic system. At some point, is the township going to come to me and say you have to hook up? I'd like to see that in the future question. So this issue seems to be with the here and now, for the benefit of the residents and growth of the township. I'm just going to ask that as an open question.
Probably can't answer all your question, but as far as your direct question, will you be required to hook up someday? I mean, I guess anything's possible, but you're real far away from any sewer. I can't
Robert,
see.
I think anything west of the 83, there's not much hooked up at all.
I mean, I can't see sewer, as long as I'm alive, ever being out where you're at.
And as a comment, this is not critical, but as a comment, I don't know where the sewer system is. Would it be helpful to have a map? Would it be helpful to have some kind of diagrams that show where the active sewer system is? Because I don't know. And most of the residents would not know
You're
as they're
probably
dealing. As
closest
they're hearing this
hookups up
issue,
here.
There's no knowledge. It's not that they can consider it or help you with input. It's just a matter of making it clear who's served, who's not served, where the outlying areas are. And again, I'll reference York County Planning Commission. They have stormwater plans. I'd like to see it tied in with York County Planning Commission. That's my own comment.
We don't have a comprehensive plan on that at all, do we?
Township has a
Yeah,
comprehensive plan.
But for
Doesn't address
the sewer,
sale of sewer.
yeah. Well, I meant referencing that is what I meant, yeah.
Good question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
The plan is actually in Goldsboro.
I'm sorry, the plan is.
So it's in Goldsboro, the actual physical plan.
1915 Old Trail Road, if you want to go visit. Not, no, I'm sorry, Cly Road, Cly Road.
It's 400 Cly Road, for clarity.
We had one other question.
Well, maybe just to,
Okay,
maybe address
he's
one
gonna,
of-
he's gonna address it. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to kind of add one thing to your statement. So as far as connecting in the future and say growth of development here in the township, even if the decision would be to sell to one of these potential companies, the township would still maintain the control of growth in the township through the Act 537 plan. And we can talk about that more in future meetings. But kind of the growth of the township would not be led by this new company. It would still be, the decision would still be made here in this building as far as who hooks up, what area of the township would get sewered, things along those lines. That's all part of the other comprehensive plan that the township has that your engineer can speak more about. So that part of the control here of the township will not be going away. That will remain here.
Tom Adams again. For those of us that are ignorant about this whole thing, I would just like to know who initiated this proposal. Did this come from the board, or did this come from an outside entity?
Came from the board. From the board. Anything else? All right, thank you.
You bet. Yeah, and so if you do want to proceed, like I said, we'd be in a position to release the RFP, in a week or two or so. So I'll defer to your solicitor, but if it's appropriate to make a motion to do that, that might be the next step.
It's on our agenda.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, Tony, you had some public comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Two, I have written public comment. We have received a letter from Northeastern Senior Community Center in Mount Wolf. Dear Board of Supervisors, Northeastern Senior Center remains grateful for your support and your very kind donation of $4,000. We have grown so much since reopening after COVID. Seniors finally realize the importance of socialization and fun in their lives to keep them both happy and healthy. We've enclosed a flyer that gives us a flyer of the Senior Center with their, in attendance, in which we put out in the hallway here for home delivery of meals. The second letter is from Friends of Redland Community Library. Dear Board of Supervisors, on behalf of Friends of Redland Community Library, I'd like to thank you for the contribution of $15,000 to the library. Your generous contribution will help offset our yearly payment to the York County Library System for the operation of the library. With your help, the library will continue to provide services to programs that our patrons and the residents of Newberry Township have come to appreciate. Once again, thank you for your generosity. It's greatly appreciated. Patricia Marcus, the treasurer, and I neglected to mention the letter from Northeastern was from Deborah Davis, the executive director. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Next item of business, approval of the minutes. I'd like to make a motion that we add the approval of the January 28th, 23 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes to the agenda. They were not in the...
They were not on the posted agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now I'd like to have a motion to approve the January 28th, 2023 board meeting minutes. What did I say? Is it, I have 28th on mine. Should be 28th.
Okay.
Is the date right? 28th?
Yes. I'll make the motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next we have land development subdivision plan review. Southern Crossing, the extension request.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, the integrated consulting that is handling Southern Crossings, that's at the townhomes at 674 Beinhauer Road. They are, on behalf of Escambia Properties LLC, wishes to extend the review period for the preliminary final subdivision land development plan for Southern Crossings, formerly the Hoffman Townhomes at Beinhauer Road, until April 26, 2023.
Did we just table it, or I get a motion?
You need to motion and approve that.
Could I have a motion to table the extension request?
It's not table, it's just extend, give them extension on their review.
Can I have a motion to give them an extension to the request?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item of business is reports. Public safety, Steve?
Good evening, Board. Good evening, residents. We'll go over the police department report first. For the month of January, our department had 1,133 calls. We had 1 burglary, 14 thefts, 1 motor vehicle theft, 5 drug offenses, 16 DUIs, 10 simple assaults, 6 domestic-related harassments, and 10 other harassments. Additionally, they had handled 1,047 calls for service, including 17 domestic-related incidents, 8 traffic accidents. They issued 84 traffic citations, 151 warnings, 11 non-traffic citations, and made 40 misdemeanor and or felony criminal arrests. It was a pretty busy month for arrests. On to the public safety report. I have nothing to add other than Newberry Town Fire Department does have bingos coming up on March 3rd, the 17th, and the 31st. I believe Goldsboro and York Haven do have some fundraisers, however, they didn't provide me the details, so I can't provide them here. Do you guys, does anyone have any questions for me regarding any of our reports?
Steve, I think we should clarify what's going on in Lewisberry with the people being, the traffic being pulled over.
Yeah,
Just
so.
Tell everybody what's going on.
So last weekend, there was direction given to our patrol officers, providing they had ample amount of time between emergency calls. and they had a full squad, which is very unusual sometimes with vacation, sick time, whatever. So they had a full squad. Call volume was low. We have concerns by a resident that lives down there on Potts Hill Road. So there was direction given to them to run speed on that road. Despite what you'll hear later, there was a study asked by PennDOT for a four-way stop, as well as the police department completed a study on that roadway for speeding. It didn't indicate that there was a high level of speed. However, you know, we wanted to try to appease this individual, as we do with most people that file complaints for speeding or, you know, Jake breaks or length of vehicles. We try to address those. Officers were out this week for length of vehicles. We try to address those. Officers were out this weekend, and they made 37 stops this weekend. Most of those stops were done inside Lewisberry Borough, because that's the safest place for the officer to stop the vehicle. So when they pull out after obtaining the speed, they'll get behind the vehicle at, you know, traveling at a safe speed. By the time they catch up to the vehicle, you know, they're exiting Newberry Township into Lewisberry Borough. That line is kind of, it actually goes from Newberry Township to Fairview Township and then into Lewisberry Borough. So the traffic stops were conducted within the borough limits of Lewisberry Borough, and a citizen had contacted the supervisor and inquired why we were inside Lewisberry Borough, since we do not provide them service anymore. So, would you like, sir?
Yeah, I made it clear what was going on. He understood after I told him it took so long for the officer to catch up to him, and the safest place to pull somebody over was in the borough, not on the road.
Yeah,
So
there's
they
no-
understood after I explained to them.
There's no berms there. The officers obviously want to make sure the person that they stopped is there safe, as well as them. So the safest place is usually, if they can catch up to them right at the curve there on Potts Hill before you enter Lewisberry, but if you don't get to them by then, or they don't see your lights or heed your warnings to pull over, this, the next closest and safest spot is within the borough limits. So, yeah, we also had a concern with trailers driving on River Road, and we went and sat an officer down there and tried to observe some violations. However, they did not in the time frame that they were down there. That was last week, as well as concern about retarding devices on York Haven Road. We sat an officer down there. Of course, just like it is when you take your vehicle in for service and you say, hey, it's making all this noise and the mechanic can't find it. Sometimes people say we have a speeding complaint or different complaints, and we sit there, we don't say anything. We're not negating the fact that it's not happening. It's just when we're there, we're not observing. Anything else?
Nope. Thank you. James, do you have anything to add?
No further additions to my report.
Bill, you have anything to add? No, I don't think so. Were you going to be at the meeting tomorrow or not? Okay.
The only thing on the old trail sewer extension, I'll have scheduled for you next month.
Well, that would, you must have read my mind. That's what I was going to ask you, so. Okay. Scott, you have anything to add? Marcus? Brent? Attorney?
Nothing to add, sir.
And I guess Jane is off sick with vertigo. She's not doing real well. So I don't know. I guess there's nothing to add to her report. Any of the supervisor have anything to add?
No, I don't.
I just wanted to clear up, the meeting was on the 24th last month.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
My bad.
Do we have to do anything different or not?
If you want to re-motion the 24th instead of the 28th.
We have to, just
I
make
know,
note.
I'm asked the solicitor if we have to make the correction.
Just amend the motion
Yeah, to the 24th.
to the 24th, and re-vote on it.
Okay. So I'll just make a motion to approve the minutes from January 24th, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting.
You're making a motion to amend
The date?
the date.
Okay, I make a motion to amend the date from January 28th to January 24th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next order of business, old business. Looking for a motion to approve, repeal, and replace ordinance 422 stormwater management. That was tabled from last month. It's already been advertised, correct?
It was advertised before last month, actually.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve, repeal, and replace ordinance 422.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to authorize release of the sewer sale request for bids.
I'll make that motion to release that bid.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, New Hope Ministries request for donation. I guess we just need to discuss this.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just if I may, so we received a request for, first of all, I think the one assistant director had spoken at a meeting previously about supporting them, and we received this mailer for their capital campaign, and that they've just opened their new center on the old trail that services Newberry and Fairview residents. It's right up by across from the CBS, if you know where that is. And I would just say my wife and I actually attended the grand opening. It's quite impressive, and I know on Wednesdays right now they provide free food to residents in need, and they also help to find jobs for the residents that are in need of a job. And in their campaign, they did mention that they need a walk-in freezer, and that's part of their campaign. I mean, their capital campaign, they already have the building, but they need walk-in freezers and stuff like that. So I just thought I'd give you that.
I have a note here that Fairview Township gave $17,000.
That's correct.
Where would the money come from if we give a donation? I mean, just out of general fund, or do we have
It would be the general fund, and there's money in there. We hadn't put that in the budget, but you can make appropriations from the general fund even though it's not in the budget.
Can we use the recreation fund?
No, it would have to be general fund.
Did that come out of contributions as a line item?
It would be an additional contribution. Sorry, Mr. Parsons, I can't hear you.
No, I thought in the budget, there's a category called contributions because make donations to the fire departments and, I'm talking about the category itself.
It would fall under that, but I just want to caution you, you just mentioned fire department, that's a different fund now with the fire tax, and it's a different category under so it's not the same as contributions to the fire department.
Or
So,
seniors, or seniors.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant,
same as the seniors.
sure.
I just more was asking budget-wise, where would we take the money from? Because it wasn't budgeted, that's why I was.
I was thinking maybe from the contribution area, right?
Yes, and so the chairman's correct that we did not have this budgeted in this year's budget under contributions. But the money, if they decide to send them some money, would come out of the general fund.
Rob, do you know when Fairview gave their money up to them?
Last night's meeting.
Last night's meeting?
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I'm just thinking about the budget, like, does the ARPA money could be used for this, some of this, or does that?
If, what the ARPA money is being targeted for, it's in the agenda here to discuss that, what it's being used for, and then it's being used to reimburse the general fund, so the ARPA money is going to be in the general fund, and it will be discretionary funds to use for whatever you
All
want.
right. Well, that answers my question.
Thank you.
I mean, does anyone have any comments, that question? I mean,
Jimmy, the only thing that concerns me is it'd be nice to have something close to the budget time to do something, I guess, that's all. I mean, if we can pull it off, figure out how we can do it without screwing up our budget, you know what I mean?
they don't really ask, it's just donation. Yeah, I mean,
The only amount we got was what Fairview gave.
Oh, they did ask for a lot.
Oh, were you there, Brian?
I mean, Tony, did they ask for a dollar amount from us?
They did not. They didn't ask for any amount. I think they sent something that said they were, I just saw an email, I'm sorry I didn't print it out, that their capital campaign was over 300,000, maybe 350, and they're about 150 something short so far.
The only issue I have with the two, where we stop donating money to who? We have a lot of churches that could use extra money. We have New Life for Girls back by the racetrack that could use extra money. Where do you stop it at? You know what I mean? It's one of my concerns.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I mean, it sounds like a good program.
It does sound like a
for
good
the-
program, yes.
For the residents, I mean, people in need.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a lot of people in need with inflation the way it is. And we will have some money in the general fund to cover it.
And you have the option to table this.
Yeah, so is this something we want to discuss a little
until you
further?
want to think about
Get
it
more
some more.
details in it?
Okay,
Is it something you'd like to do, Rob?
yeah, we can do
I
that.
think we do that. I'd make a motion to table till our next meeting to discuss it.
All right. Have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next order of business, PennDOT traffic study, Potts Hill Road four-way stop response letter. Who wants to address that? Bill, attorney?
I can, just let me
Thank
get
you.
to it. I just have to get to it on my. Storm sewer is a long document. Okay, I got it. Letter from PennDOT to Newberry Township addressed to me. In response to the letter dated December 5th, 2022, requesting a multi-way stop study at the intersection of Potts Hill Road and Old Quaker Road within your municipality. Based on your request, PennDOT conducted an engineering and traffic study in accordance with 67 PA Code, Section 212.106. Additional warrants for stop signs or yield signs. At the aforementioned location, elements considered in the study were a 3-year crash analysis, geometric review, sight distance, speed and data, and traffic volume. Results of the study indicate conditions for a multi-way stop were not met. Incidentally, PennDOT will update the intersection warning signs for better driver awareness. Also, Newberry Township may want to consider making operational changes to this intersection. No driveways within the study area were studied by PennDOT, as their safety and operation falls on the driveway owner. Ultimately, pursuant to Title 67 PA Code Section 441, it's up to the owner of the driveway to ensure that the driveway is located and maintained such that it provides safe access to the state roadway. Your interest in highway safety greatly appreciated. If you have any further questions, contact Mark Jensen, District Traffic Unit. Sincerely, Christopher C. Flad, PennDOT District Traffic Engineer.
there any discussion on this by anyone, or?
What are we actually voting on?
We're not really voting, are we?
What do you?
I'm sorry.
We're not voting on anything on this, right?
No,
Just-
that's just,
This discussion.
that's, we asked for a study, that's the result.
Okay, next item of business, Yoakumtown Church of God request for sewer credit. This was, for anyone that's not aware, they were charged $1,828.50 for a sewer bill last summer, because it goes off the water meter reading, and they were watering their garden. And they're requesting for relief from the sewer bill because nothing actually went to the sewer plant.
Can we go back by their average was before?
Yeah,
that?
attorney did a worksheet here. Their average is $550, and they were billed $1,828.50.
Are they going to correct the problem by having a different meter?
Well, we talked
something
about
you
that.
were talking about?
Yeah, and I told him I would help them get that meter installed.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of giving them a credit for the difference, providing, like, this is, next year, they're gonna have to have the meter in.
Yeah, so we're not going to give the money back to them, they're just going to use what they have for their future bills. Correct?
Yeah, I would guess, yeah, just a credit on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense, best sense, attorney, or they'll just have a credit?
I don't have a dog in the hunt.
I'm
But
asking you
I
your
gave you,
personal opinion.
so my opinion would be that if you were going to give them a credit, it would be the average subtracted from that large bill, and that would be the credit put on
Credit
there.
their account, okay.
Yes, sir.
So.
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know what it is.
I'd like to make a motion, we credit them the difference between the $1,828.50 and the $550 average.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for the work on that, Terry.
Actually, staff got the numbers for me.
Next item of business is just discussion on the ARPA fund transfer to the general fund. Attorney, want to handle
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I alluded a little bit to it earlier. First of all, we received the ARPA funds in two different payments over 2 years, and the total is, it may not be exact because we get interest, but it's $1,699,436. $1,699,436. And we work with our accounting firm, Zolankovsky Axelrod, to make sure that we handle the money properly and spend the money properly, and then we are required to file reports every year. So, at this point in time, the ARPA money, the funds, will be transferred directly into the general fund as a reimbursement for what the federal government considers provision of government service or services, and that will include police wages and benefits. So it's a direct deposit into the general fund. And as I mentioned earlier, that's a reimbursement for what we've spent, so it's into the general fund, and now it can be spent at the discretion of the board.
And there's roughly 30,000 in that figure that was just interest from.
Yes, it's notated in the budget document.
Okay.
But it's probably more than that a little bit because it goes up as we go,
Okay.
but that was at the time of the budget.
All right, is there any discussion, public comment on this? Okay, we'll move on to new business. First item, approve portable toilet bids.
Yeah, I can read the toilet bids here. We received 2 bids, Walter Services and Associated Products. Walter Services, total is $3,960 a year, and Associated Products is $4,296. Low bid would be Walter Services, and just for reference, that's who actually had it last year, too. I need a motion to approve that
We're looking for a motion to approve the bids,
I'll make that motion to approve bids,
award the bid to Walters Portal West. I
to
should say.
award the bid.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Well, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Couldn't we just have one unit instead of two and just have a handicapped and anybody can use it?
We only
Have a
have,
two?
yes,
Or do we have to have separate?
yes, ma'am, we have one at Dolan Park because it's not used as much, so that's exactly what we do there. We have a handicapped unit so that we have to have one for ADA compliance, so we have one there. Shelley, we have a regular one and an ADA because of the amount of usage. Because there's 3 fields up there that get used all concurrently, so there's a lot of people there.
That makes sense.
They're only good for like 10 people a unit per week.
They clean twice a week.
I'm just saying the way they do it is if
Yeah.
it's gonna be, one unit's only good for 10 people.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any more discussion or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to adopt ordinance 423 for tax credit for volunteer fire companies and EMS. James, you want to give a little insight on this?
So this is the tax credit program that the county recently adopted and a lot of the surrounding municipalities. This is property tax credit and income tax credit for individuals that are volunteer firefighters or emergency service providers. The property tax amount, and forgive me, I don't have the amount of money. I'm drawing a blank on that, but anyway, it's applicable to obviously one household, and then you have up to a $500 credit for each of the income tax credits for each individual that volunteers. There's a criteria that is set. The safety lead or the fire commissioner sets the criteria for it per the ordinance, and then that can be adjusted by resolution moving forward. The income tax and property tax relief really wouldn't be applicable till next year, since we've already put out property tax bills and income tax bills are going out, or income tax statements are going out right now, so.
Okay.
I think I adequately covered that, Tony Hedge.
The earned income tax credit's $500. And probably needs to be mentioned that eligible entities for this tax credit is Newberry Township Fire Department, Goldsboro Fire Company 1, Susquehanna Fire
Correct.
Company 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for adding.
I'm looking for a motion to adopt ordinance 423.
I make that motion to adopt 423.
Can I have a second? I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I just want to ask a question. We have, for EMS, isn't EMS a paid position?
It's only for volunteer,
Paid volunteer EMS?
correct.
Okay. It doesn't say that here. Do you want to clarify it's for volunteer for fire company and volunteer EMS? It's not written down or anything like that.
It says at the very beginning, sir, of the ordinance, a volunteer service credit program for tax credits for volunteer members of volunteer fire companies and nonprofit emergency medical services. That's right at the front.
I mean, it's not written here, that's all.
Oh,
Just make sure
sorry.
we say it right so people don't understand
Sure.
it. And does everybody get a break with this, every volunteer? Is it?
But then,
No, there's a criteria that has to be met. There's a point system that will be put in place by the fire chief or the safety director. That's outlined in the ordinance, that you have to work a certain number of hours, you have to be a township resident, you have to, so it's not carte blanche,
Gotcha.
in other words.
All right, thanks.
So, let me get this straight. We're gonna give Goldsboro and York Haven a tax credit as well?
because they're volunteer for Newberry Township.
No, they have to be township residents, right?
No, correct. They have to be township residents if they volunteer for
Any three of them?
any of the three of them, then yes, we would be giving them a tax credit.
So we're giving them our tax dollars. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I didn't realize that.
It's a tax credit for the volunteers, it's not.
And they have to be residents of Newberry Township, whether they work at either, volunteer at any of the three, but they still have to be a resident
Okay, so
paying
all
taxes.
of Goldsboro can't come here.
Correct.
No, they
It's
have
under
to live
Section
in the
C.
township.
That's the
Because they pay
clarification I was
taxes to us,
asking.
Goldsboro.
Okay.
Pay taxes.
I'm
You
good.
can't control their taxes, so. I think it's a good program.
Yeah.
So we had a second.
Steve? you
I
want-
think, yeah.
Steve?
No, and I'm
The fire chief.
the fire chief sets it, yes.
That's it.
Okay. I thought the discussion was that you guys were going to adopt the same point system that York County has adopted for their property
Right.
taxes.
Correct,
Correct, yeah. Okay.
yeah. But somebody's got to collect the paperwork.
We need that by tomorrow morning.
So you had a first and a second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, I'm looking for a motion to honorably discharge Officer Michael Breyer for medical reasons. I'll make a motion, we honorably discharge
I'll
Officer
second
Breyer.
that.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2023-10 to destroy records.
Mr. Chairman, I just let, they're listed on the resolution, but I will give you a background. We follow the Municipal Records Act, 53 PACA 1381, and Act 428 of Municipal Records Act that permits what records can be destroyed, and pretty much most of the records are in this act you keep for 7 years. So if you look down the list of what I have on here, it pretty much enumerates what we're going to destroy, and they are documents that are prior to 2016. Actually, some of them are like 2005 that we found. And I want to thank the hard work by the staff that went through all these documents with me and tried to clean up the back room here.
So where's that list you're looking?
It's on the.
No, I have it. Oh, it's in the resolution.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other discussion on that? No, we didn't make a motion yet, did we?
Yeah, they are.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-10 to destroy records.
Can I get a second?
I'll make a second on that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'm looking for a motion to approve mobile data computer service agreement for the police. Chief, you want to give a little description on this?
So that agreement is, well, all of our patrol cars have computers in them. Those computers are leased from the county. Within those computers, there's software on there that is controlled by the county. Every 5 years, that agreement needs to be signed to allow us to lease these computers from the county. We did look into potentially buying our own computers for a one-time cost. That would potentially save the township money over that 5-year term. However, the county will not provide us with the necessary programs to operate in the same capacity that we are doing now. Meaning, they won't give us access to certain capabilities of, like, when they dispatch a call, that call automatically shows up on the officer's computer, provides them a map, provides them a narrative of actually what the call takers took in. So when the officers are reading it, they could see what would happen. They wouldn't be able to have real-time data with that. They would still be able to do it in a different fashion, but it wouldn't be in the same aspect of what they did now. So this agreement was vetted by the York County Chiefs, and I erred in judgment thinking that I was able to sign that, so I didn't submit it when everybody else did. So I took notice that I needed the Board of Supervisors' permission to do that. It is budgeted this year for that, as it has been for the last 5 years, underneath a certain line item. We aren't able, if we didn't sign that, we would not be able to keep the same amount that we have in our cars, because it is leased by the county. I don't know what else information I can provide you.
That's plenty of information. Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the mobile data computer service agreement.
I'll make a motion that we approve the mobile data computer service agreement for the police.
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the Memorial Day Parade and insurance premium.
Mr. Chairman, the township provides for the insurance for the parade every year, and by your approval also permits them to have the parade on township roads.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve Memorial Day Parade insurance premium.
I'll second that insurance.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the advertisement of the 2023 road program. Bill?
In my packet, I have a lead schedule there for the 2023 road program. I'm just looking for approval tonight to advertise that. There should have been a list of streets also in that packet. We worked out with Scott that we can
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the advertisement of the 2023 road program.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to approve the payment of bills.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make that motion. We adjourn.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?